Hare Krishna, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Yes, great. I've got some thumbs up. Amazing. So, my name's Uma, and I'm going to host today. So, thank you so much for joining this Think Gita talk today, a wisdom talk. And our talk today is called Life Gets Crazy. And we have a really, really amazing, lovely father-daughter duo who I'm going to introduce now, which is Saci-Kumar and his lovely daughter Miraya. And they're going to be doing a talk for us today about how modern life gets quite hectic and crazy for both teenagers and adults. And I'm super interested to get a little bit of information about you guys. Um, so maybe it'd be great if we start with an introduction about who you guys are and also an introduction to your spiritual journey.
Oh, yes, yeah, for sure. Thank you for having us here, by the way. We're very grateful to be here. And sure, do you want to introduce yourself first? Sure.
Yeah, you can go. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, my name is Saci-Kumar. And I'm married to my wife, Amrita Kelly. I've been working in financial services and client relationship management during my career. And I have two children, Miraya, who is 17 years old, and Krista, who is 13. Krista's feeling very left out because she's not in this room, but we'll make up for it later. She has a lot to say as well. So we're so glad to be here today. And yes, in terms of my journey, I've been on a journey with Bhakti Yoga for about 20 years now. And I should say that I'm still a student of Bhakti, but my path to Bhakti Yoga was a funny one. It wasn't something that I planned, and it began with a bit of a crisis, to be honest. It actually all started with our beloved family parrot. His name was Rocky. And this is going back a while now, before the children were born. And he was just a year old. And me and my wife really loved him very much. And one day, by accident, unfortunately, my grandmother, who was living with us at the time, she left the front door open. And Rocky was only small. He was about 1 year old. And he kind of flew out of the door, and then he flew away. And we were quite devastated by that. Only those who have pets or something like that in the house, they feel that loss. So I took a week off work to search for them. So did my wife, and we searched the whole neighborhood, actually. And we were asking everyone around to see if they'd seen our parrot, but there was no sign of that. And on the final day of that heartbreaking week, my wife and I decided to visit the local Bhakti Vedanta, the manor. And we thought we would go there to seek some solace. And we met a compassionate person there. I don't think I've told you this, have I?
No.
Okay. We met
beginning, but not
the beginning,
yeah,
not this part. So we met a lovely person there, and it was the first time in that particular place, or at least the first time in a long time for us. And when we shared our story with this lovely, lovely person, he listened with such empathy, actually. And he said that he will take time to pray for our parrot Rocky. So, and that was quite moving, and it touched us quite deeply. And later he said something along the lines that, it was a long time ago, but he said that your parrot has led you to a spiritual pathway. He actually said that to us. And for us, it was a moment of real profound realization, actually. And as we learned more about Bhakti, I discovered how significant the parrot is in the Bhakti tradition. You may have seen pictures of Krishna with the parrot on his shoulder. It's a meaningful thing. To be honest, if it wasn't for that crisis in our life, and it was quite a loss to us, we may have never visited Bhaktivedanta Manor and had that really great association. And I certainly wouldn't be practicing today, I don't think, myself and my wife. So this experience really taught me and my wife that as we went on to talk about and hear about the teachings of the Gita, particularly in chapter 7, there's a verse that says, Krishna says to Arjuna, Chaturvida bhajati mam. He says, that there are four kinds of people who begin or seek out the divine. They seek out the divine life. And those are the distressed, the seeker of wealth, the inquisitive, and the desire of truth, or the seeker of truth. And in our case, at least initially, it was our distress for losing Rocky that really sowed the seed of devotion and led us to become really inquisitive about the Bhakti tradition. And so anyway, that's how we came into this Bhakti tradition. And I hope this story resonates with some of you, because it reminds us more than anything else that sometimes the challenges in life, they guide us to a deeper place, don't they? We never know what's around the corner, and that even nature has an extraordinary way of guiding us. So thank you for allowing me to share that anyway. But Mirai, you tell us something.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Miraya and I'm the eldest daughter. So I'm 17 years old and I'm again so grateful to be part of this session with you all. So yeah, our path of bhakti began in a very unexpected way, as you've just heard from Dad. And I wasn't even born when it all started, but you know, growing up in a home that embraced the teachings of the Gita has been really, really so enriching. And over the years, I've learned to see, you know, challenges in life not as obstacles, but more as opportunities to go deeper in faith and understanding. And it's easy in, you know, today's fast-paced world. People, you know, my age can feel overwhelmed, and any age. And I find that the wisdom I've gained from our spiritual practices has given me a really strong foundation. So whether it's dealing with school pressures, general uncertainties, whatever is happening, I found a lot of peace and gratitude in the path of bhakti. So I sincerely hope to continue growing on this journey and learning more as I go on. So yeah.
Amazing. But thank you both so much for sharing. That story really, really was amazing. And I think many of us have actually faced that, where we see something happening and at the time you don't quite realize that actually it was leading to something else, and you learned so much from that experience. You're kind of quite involved in a situation where you are seeing loads of negative emotions, but then slowly through that situation you see why it really happened. So thank you so much for sharing. And Miraya, also, you're so wise beyond your years already, and I think you can teach us so much. So thank you so much for that, for those introductions. And just before we move on, if I could also ask people who haven't turned their cameras on to please show your faces and smile for us. So this is a little bit of an interactive session. And also, just to remind everyone that there will be opportunities to ask questions. So if you could, whenever you feel that you have a question, please do write it in the chat. And as we're having the talk, people, we will stop for questions. So I will get an opportunity to get them answered for you. So please do write anything you want to in the chat, or raise your hand and at some point if you want to as well. And yeah, so please feel free to do that. So yeah, I guess we can continue and we can start wherever you'd like to start.
Yeah, I mean, the part about how crazy life can be. Did you come up with that title?
I don't know, it just sort of happened.
Is your life crazy? Yeah, life can be crazy. I mean, 1 minute everything's going fine, and then the next minute things are like, the whole world is spinning out of control. And whether it's exams for Miraya or family drama, we get loads of those as well. Career stress, or just trying to figure out what to do next and what to do with our lives. Things, I guess, can get pretty overwhelming, especially when we were talking about this subject earlier on. So that's the idea of the title, don't you think?
I say we've all been there, whether you're a young adult trying to balance, college, friends, constant social media, or like a parent trying to juggle work, kids, responsibilities. Sometimes life does get crazy, but there is a cool part to it, and it's not just that. Where if you think back thousands of years ago, you you have a warrior named Arjun who was going through a huge life crisis, as we're putting it today. And he was standing on the battlefield. He was confused, anxious, overwhelmed. But luckily, his charioteer was none other than the divine personality Krishna, who gave him timeless advice that still speaks to us today through the Gita. And so we can have a look into how we can find some sanity in our sometimes crazy lives using the Gita's wisdom.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, we've got to share. We've got some slides, or we can
Oh, yeah.
continue. It's whatever you think.
Yeah.
No, please do share your slides.
Just take a minute.
It's okay.
Oh, that's nice.
Can everyone see that?
Yes, amazing.
Imagine when we're reading the Gita, just standing on the battlefield, surrounded by your enemies, but also your friends and your family and teachers and people that you love as well. And imagine you're a warrior and it's your duty to fight, but you suddenly freeze. It's like, how can you relate to that, really? I mean, it's a tricky one. And you start doubting everything, and you doubt your role and your purpose and your decisions. And this is exactly what happens to Arjuna. So although you would think it's difficult for us to relate to in that way, we may not be fighting that same battle, but certainly we face emotional and mental battles all the time in work, in school, things like that. Like, do I follow my dreams? Do I do what others expect of me? How do I deal with pressure? What if I make the wrong decision? So Arjuna's crisis in that respect in modern day is very relatable. But just like he had divine guidance with him in Krishna of all personalities, we have the Bhagavad Gita spoken by divine himself, and we can enable, or we can help ourselves by reading and understanding the wisdom from the literature to handle our crazy moments. Don't you think?
Yeah, and even I myself grapple with a dilemma. Like, the dilemma was the main part of the beginning, isn't it? Arjuna's dilemma, where I'm sometimes, I'm highly stressed or anxious about the outcome of my efforts, like A-level exams or university admissions. And obviously I feel a intense pressure to succeed. It may be driven by the fear of failure, people's expectations, or desire to please my parents, or you never know. But even though I know my parents are cool and they're mostly concerned about welfare nor exam grades, you still naturally feel that sense of worry for whatever reason. It's that dilemma. So yeah.
Yeah, of course, we definitely are concerned about your well-being more than exam grades.
Yeah.
I hope you know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is where, yeah, are we on the right slide?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's coming next. It's tricky. I mean, this is where Krishna's wisdom begins here. The slide, let it go. And the Gita's advice in chapter 2, where it explains karmani evadikarate, and says that you have a right to perform your duty. One should do your duty. But the Gita says, you are not entitled to the fruits of action. And we should never consider ourselves the cause of the results of our own activities. And this is early on in chapter 2, where Krishna has spoken this to Arjuna. And this idea to perform our duty, but not to be attached to results, this equates to karma yoga, accepting the transcendental aspect of the work we do and the results that we accumulate. And the karma yoga aspect to that is being neutral to the rewards or the outcomes that such results offer, whether they are success or failure. So karma yoga, in that respect, is about transforming, really changing our everyday actions into spiritual actions or spiritual growth, towards spiritual growth. So the Gita explains, and I think in the 9th chapter, Gita explains that that Gurusva Mad Arpanam, do that as an offering to me. And it goes on to say that whatever we do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, whatever we give away, that we should do that as an offering. So this really shifts how we approach work and how we look at the results of work. So imagine pouring your heart into something, into everything that you do, and whether it's schoolwork, helping others, or even simple tasks, without being fixated on what you'll get in return. So it's about taking care of our responsibilities with a great amount of dedication, knowing that each effort that we put a step forward to, it helps our inner fulfillment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and if we let go of the need for the rewards that we're anticipating, and simply just focus on doing our best, and we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of purpose and connection with something greater, with more divine. So by simply just changing the way you do things and changing the way you expect the results, every action becomes a chance to grow and to serve. So in fact, the Vedic wisdom teaches us that life's desires actually, they should never be directed towards looking for results or sense gratification. One should really just desire healthiness, a healthy life, and self-preservation. And human life it's a very special form of life, because we can have a life of an animal, a cat or a dog or a pigeon or something like that. But human life is meant to inquire about the absolute truth, to inquire about what is the truth, whereas an animal wouldn't have such capability of inquiring about that. So besides that, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. We shouldn't really be looking at much more than self-preservation and inquiring about the truth. And in case you're asking or wondering, what is the truth? What is the absolute truth? And that's important to know, that the scriptures tell us that the absolute truth is Vedam Vastam Atravastu, understanding the factual substance, understanding the absolute truth, or in simpler terms, to understand the distinction between what's permanent and what is temporary. Or in fact, in simpler words than that, to know the difference between what is intelligence and what is ignorance. That is the simplest understanding of trying to inquire about the absolute truth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So from what you said, from a practical point of view, for example, if I approach my studies with that mindset of action without attachment to the result, I would study not just to pass the exam or to work hard for that good job in the future, but to actually genuinely learn and contribute my knowledge to, my family, friends, and the community. And then in that mindset, my goal can become, anyone's goal can become not the goal itself, but the improvement in the process of getting there. So this change in focus really reduces any anxiety you may feel, because obviously you'd no longer be bound by the pressure of the result. Instead, you're more engaged in the process of learning with purpose, and that would go beyond any grades or career prospects, undoubtedly. And I don't think I mentioned, well, my A-level, so I'm doing biology, chemistry, and psychology, and a dissertation, but those are my 3 A-levels, and I found that I have learned so much about my body and what I'm not willing to put in my body, like synthetic drugs, processed food, and through that you learn how you affect your senses through these science subjects, and like what I look at, what I taste, for example, things like that. And you can learn how certain things can affect your psyche through external things affecting internally. And that way, just academic subjects that seem so like surface level understanding, curriculum based, just everyone learns it. If you really extract the right information, you can really learn so much like that and apply it in the best way. So
yeah. I mean, the aspect of doing something, just the duty, and getting something out of the journey of doing something, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
And the results are the actual journey itself, instead of the results, the end part.
Yeah.
It's
It's not
like
the destination, it's the way you get there, something.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
heard a quote like that.
yeah. You're right. It's like, you know, planting a plant. We plant something outside in the garden.
A seed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a seedling or a seed or a young plant, and we water it. We hope for some sunlight, hope for some rain, but then our job in that respect is done, and our job is to just do our best and give the right environment for things to happen. But then the results of that flower growing or flowering or leaves or whatever is, well, it's in nature's hands, isn't it? And nature is in the hands of a higher nature, a divine nature. So,
And that's how
yeah,
you let it go. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense. So you could say from a you know, another action perspective. So like for any teenagers at school, college, uni, let's actually embrace our responsibilities. So towards friendships or work, whatever it is, um, see to it with full dedication, but don't worry too much about success or failure. Don't worry about it. Just put your all into it. That's the first
Yeah.
lesson, really. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What time is okay?
Yeah.
We're rambling on. Please let us know if we're going too long, but we've got a couple of other lessons. Should Umar, are there any questions or anything from participants before we continue?
Yeah, so I guess this would be a great time for anyone who does have any questions to put them in the chat now, and we will on the first lesson that we've just had. If anyone has any questions, we can answer them now. So please do share. And in the meantime, while everyone's writing their questions down, I would like to ask you guys a question. First of all, amazing lesson, beautifully said. Loved everything about it so far. I guess a question I have is maybe Mariah, you could answer this question. For kids who are doing exams at the moment, they do mean something and they could be the answer to the next step of their life, like for you, for example. So obviously, with the intention of not thinking about the result, what would you suggest to someone who actually doesn't get the result that they intended to? You know, we all have dreams and aspirations, and maybe they didn't do so well on an exam that they did try really hard for. Obviously, again, we're not thinking about the results. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
So, you know, in this day and age, there's so much emphasis on, you know, academic success, like it's a be all and end all. If you don't get those A's, if you don't get those A stars, that's it. You know, you'll be out on the streets, you won't get anywhere. It's so daunting compared to how it was. I don't know, for you, I find that when you probably were going to school, it wasn't as, you know,
Yes, it was.
well, fine. He always says that. But I find that if you find that you're not always getting those grades that you want or you're aspiring to, there's much more to life than that. And we're all individuals who have our own qualities and all our own natures. And having our own natures means we're always good at something. We may be more, you know, left-brained or right-brained, more logical, more creative. There's always something for us, and we have our own innate dharma and duties that we're meant to fulfill. And so this you know, this part of school life, it's only a small speck of our life, really, if you think about you know, our life, and then you have the whole universe, and then all the planet. It's just such a small part of life that there's always going to be something there. And obviously, success or failure, it will be there, but we just need to do our best and understand it's not the end of everything. And just there's always something else for you to go with, and leave it in the hands of Krishna. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
No, I agree totally.
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's all about instant gratification, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Another question. So we all obviously have social media at the moment and we kind of see what's going on with other people's lives. And I guess sometimes, you know, people do tend to post the highlights of their lives and it looks what they've achieved and everything can look quite amazing. And also people can strive to achieve similar things. So in how can we understand our own duty and also consider maybe understanding that it's not like that's a perception of their life and not like their real lives, and actually how can we kind of navigate our own lives in this new world of social media knowing all of this?
Do you know, Mirai is actually, because social media is getting beyond me right now. So
You're gonna put this on me.
so Miraya is going to do something in about 10 minutes or so, and she's going to focus on social media actually. So should we park that question for a moment, if that's right,
Oh
Uma?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it is mentioned, so yeah.
Okay. Is that okay?
Of course, I'm going to ask you a question then, directed more at you for
Sure.
about this lesson, and we'll park that one. So I guess my question to you is probably as a father, obviously we can like truthfully parents probably do worry seeing how difficult the job market is, looking at how difficult exams are and how ambitious people are getting nowadays and all of these different things. What do you worry at all about that, and does that have an impact on how maybe Miraya would see her results? And obviously we have discussed that you definitely prefer looking after her health and her well-being over her exam results. What are your thoughts as a parent?
Do you know what? One thing comes to mind. I heard a class the other day, day before yesterday, and the speaker talked about. He spoke about the ocean and how cool and calm and deep the ocean is, and how, from the point of view of all the rivers that flow into the ocean, but still the ocean doesn't overflow, does it? It remains calm and steady. But what we've learned from the Gita is that we have to try to learn to connect to our inner self and try to be the ocean. And although there are so many other desires and issues and things affecting our life, we have to remain calm, deep, relaxed, and not be concerned with all the waves and the rivers and all the different kind of currents that are approaching into the ocean. But because when all the rivers flow into the ocean, try to be calm and deep and relaxed as the ocean, and not so shallow and up and down like the rivers that go into the ocean. When I heard that the other day, I thought everyone can take something from that, isn't it? So no matter what results come through, the idea is to do one's best, but just do the duty at the very least. And in that respect, stay calm about the results of those things. So be the ocean is what I would say from that.
No, that is beautiful, and I think you
If
did
that
that really well. No, from my understanding, what you're saying is kind of like, so if we are the ocean, at all times we are going to have things rushing towards us. It could be, people's rents increasing. It could be a salary decrease. It could be someone getting fired. Like all sorts of things are getting thrown at you. It could be exams. It could be anything. But we should remain at an equilibrium and understand that that is our norm, maybe. Yeah. I really like that analogy.
uh,
I think, yeah, definitely. Well, really well said right now. Let's move on to the next lesson. Thank you.
okay. So the next lesson, what does that say? Harmony in the hustle. Okay. Right. Mirai came up with such lovely titles, by the way. I
I
have to
really
remember
like
what they are.
We've written life, let go.
Yeah.
That's
I thought
great.
Let It Go was about that.
Frozen, didn't you?
Yeah. But you really tricked me on that. Anyway, harmony in the hustle. I mean, that's, as it says on the slide, steady steps. And when we look at the Gita's teachings on finding balance in life, Krishna tells Arjuna that one should be regulated in habits of eating, of sleeping, of recreation, of work. And those things can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, in other words, balance is the key to a healthy and a peaceful life. And I think, from what I remember, that
This picture.
the picture of the car. Do you remember when we went to Cornwall?
Yeah.
This summer that just went?
Yeah.
And we went to Cornwall, Uma, and we packed so much luggage. In fact, the luggage wasn't mine. I live with 3 women, and they had so much luggage that my bag was about this big, and their bag was like, I had a hernia trying to put it in the car.
Oh my god. No, because you would go to the beach and you collect stones so you could paint them to like a pretend shallow grounds, and then you. So that's what weighed a ton. You would collect
The stone
them.
is only this big.
No,
Your
you-
bag, the bags,
No.
you and Mummy's bag, and anyway, we're having it.
I love this relationship.
Yes, yes. We usually debate in private, and we forgot we're we forgot we're online. But anyway, the fact is, Uma, that think of a car that's carrying so much weight, and when you're carrying so much weight and you're trying to go up a hill, as we try to go up a hill, the car just won't move, or it's going to break down. At least it's going to drive slowly, like ours did. So the fact is that the same thing is, if we overload our lives, it's like putting too much baggage on ourselves. We overwork things. So if we overwork things in work, if we overthink things in school, if we overdo parenthood, isn't it? Which I admit sometimes I do as well. And we don't take time to rest. We kind of burn ourselves out. And that's the idea of going the car thing, I think. But the flip side of that coin is that if we just rest and avoid responsibility totally altogether, then we lose the purpose. So we have to have a balance between doing nothing at all and overloading things. And you're right, people today face a lot of pressure to be perfect grades at school. And of course, definitely now, A-levels it's very different to when I was. I think that's what you tell me anyway. Perfect careers, perfect grades, perfect social lives. And the Gita teaches us to have the balance. In fact, it says to mitigate all material pains, we should have balance, isn't it? We should balance those things. And it goes on to say that we should eat well, sleep well, work. And so, although, like you mentioned, right, you're going through A-levels at the moment, I mean, you tell us that's very relevant to you, isn't it?
Yeah. One thing that came to mind as you were saying that is, as an A-level psychology student, I've learned a lot about what makes humans tick, and how we can lead a more balanced life. And one of the ideas that, as I was sitting in my class and the teacher was like teaching with spec, I really found that one idea hit home. And not for many, this idea was just an ordinary lesson, but for me it resonated because it was about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I find it's a really
Who's Maslow?
Maslow, he was an American psychologist.
Okay.
He was an American psychologist, and he came up with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I find it's a super useful way to think about what we really need to be happy and fulfilled. And his idea is it's pretty simple, but it's powerful. So I think I have a slide on that. Yeah, there we go. This is it. Yeah, Maslow's idea is pretty simple but powerful. And Maslow's pyramid, or the hierarchy of needs, is a psychological theory that ranks human needs in a 5-level pyramid. So as you can see, there's 5 levels, from basic physiological needs like food, shelter at the bottom, to higher level needs like self-actualization at the top. But the catches is that you can't reach the top if you're not taking care of the basics first. So, although this theory is said to be a very Western understanding of self-progression, if you characterize and take the lessons from this and transform it into a spiritual perception, you can really fine-tune this pyramid to your own goals. So if I looked at this pyramid as I'm looking at it now, the way I see is different to you. It's all personal, which is quite nice. So, as someone juggling, friendships, studies, trying to grow personally, this hierarchy is really relatable. So, if I'm not taking care of my health or feeling secure in even my relationships, it's hard to focus on the bigger picture. You become so detail orientated and overwhelmed. And Maslow's pyramid is a really good reminder that balance, as we're talking about harmony in the hustle, that balance means making sure all parts, all levels are being looked after. So I'd like to share with you my daily spiritual routine, you could call it. So it's this routine that I have along with school, but it's been a real game changer for staying organized and balanced. And even though I'm not a really organized person myself, I'm really not. I find that having this structure and routine has really forced me to be organized and just focused. So if we look at the pyramid now, we have the bottom, which is physiological needs. We have basic survival needs like food, water, sleep, and exercise. So how do I implement that in my day? In the morning, I start my day. This is at my best times. This is when I'm feeling motivated, like with yoga or stretches to keep my body healthy and energized. And it's so important to stay physically fit. Obviously, there's some days where I don't feel like doing as much, but I try my best, just even if I don't feel like it, put myself to it. In the evening, at the end of the day, I make sure to unwind and relax to get full night's rest. So sleep, survival needs, because sleep is essential for feeling refreshed. Now, if we move up a level to safety needs, that's personal security, and you have like health, and you have like well-being. So I would say I do this by the morning, where I spend quiet time meditating or journaling to clear my mind. And journaling, once you asked me what do I journal, wasn't it? You asked me, and I say mostly it's gratitude, and it's my goals for the day, so I can really understand what I want to make out from the day. So that's what I do, and that gives me a sense of mental stability and security. And then in the daytime, studies, focus sessions, and then I can stay on track in that way. So then you have the third layer. So this third layer of Maslow's pyramid in the middle, you have love and belonging needs. So that's social connections, friendships, family. And that's in the day when, I'd make time to connect with friends, even if it's like a WhatsApp video call, whatever, or just a quick message, or talks with family throughout the day, because these relationships are so useful for emotional well-being and that sense of belonging. Then you have the second layer to the top, you have the esteem needs, which is confidence, achievement, and self-esteem. So I say for me in the afternoon, I dedicate my part of the day to like personal growth, whether it's reading or reflecting, and then you can get that sense of achievement. And my favorite one, I guess it's the one everyone's striving for ultimately, is at the top, self-actualization. That's achieving potential, pursuing purpose and your creativity. And I say this is the best part of the day. In the evening, it's good to engage in spiritual activities like kirtan. Sometimes we have kirtan, most times kirtan as a family, and sometimes we have association groups, like different families coming over, like you can call it a sangha. And sometimes I'd read scriptures in the evening, and that is really the way I can help connect to my deeper purpose. And that's the time where I reflect on my personal journey and focus on my spiritual growth. So in this way, for me, it's all about being aware and intentional on how I spend my time and energy, because it's important to make time for the things that matter the most. And we all should strive for that self-actualization, the peak. I'm reminded that it's important to look beyond the surface. And obviously this material existence can sort of blanket us and soothe us into this false idea of calm and everything's going to be okay. But if we forget that there's something beyond these first few layers, there's a peak. We need to reach that peak. So this Maslow's pyramid has really been good for that, and I recommend everyone to look into that and see it for their own.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I haven't heard of the word self-actualization before, but
You
of
haven't?
course, no, not until you just mentioned it. But yeah, it makes sense, because it's like self-realization. It's actually realizing the self. And for those of you thinking that, I'm looking at this pyramid right now, and not all those habits seem to be spiritual habits according to the pyramid, but we're dovetailing them into spiritual habits, because spiritual well-being is maintained through keeping in check both the gross body as well as the spiritual body. So you have the gross body, you have our body, you have the subtle body, which is the mind, the intelligence, what we call false ego as well, and the pure soul, the invisible layer as well, the pure soul. So it's balance means looking after the gross as well as the subtle, in order to help purify our existence and urge the soul to go and seek the divine through our senses and our actions. So in that respect, that pyramid can be spiritualized. And is that what you're kind of saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, all the aspects should be balanced to complement each other. And if we neglect, say, one thing like the body, then it can affect the mind. So this balance of the material as well as spiritual. I mean, I like that. Maslow's pyramid really puts a spin into that perspective. So, Uma, do you have any questions from the participants or any comments you'd like to make? It's certainly an eye opener for me about Maslow's pyramid.
Yeah, Maslow.
No, it is honestly it is. I didn't know about it either, but it's actually really, really amazing, and it's a great way to structure. Like, Mariah, it was actually really nice for you to kind of explain how you use this to structure yours, like, well, daily life, spiritual life, and how actually this can provide you some balance, really, right? I think that's super amazing. I don't know if we have any questions on this section. If anyone does have any, oh, we have a hand up. Deepa, it's amazing. Do you want to, can we get someone to unmute Deepa, please, so she can ask her question, if that's possible? Is it possible?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. It's really very enlightening to hear such a profound message from a 17-year-old child. I have got a 16-year-old daughter. She's going through the same. And then sometimes I wonder how you handle peer pressure, because I'm sure like you have been trained to eat in a certain way, you do certain things in a different way than rest of your classmates. So I'm just curious to know how they treat you. Are they like, wow, she's a wise girl, or oh, I find it very weird, like a teenager at this age not hanging out with friends or just not partying. She's talking about the kirtan and sattvic food and all those things. So I'm just like curious to know, how do you handle peer pressure?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I find obviously you get so many influences today. You get people that are young and they're vaping, the people that are going out drinking underage. There's so many things going on. And even as you get older, you know, the transition from secondary school to sixth form is bigger than you think. Everyone thinks, man, I'm an adult now, I could do anything, you know. But I remember this one quote I read. It's, when your roots are deep, there's no reason to fear the wind. So when your roots, in terms of you don't even have to be brought up in the path of bhakti, but you learn the way of bhakti, or learn how to be just strict in controlling your senses and your way of life. You find that peer pressure and all these external forces that encouraging you to, you know, do this, try this, this is cool, this is good. Obviously, I hang out with a good group of friends that are good influence, and people say that your three immediate friends, if you take their characters, blend them together, that's basically how you are. So your friends define how you are as a person. So it's all very important to associate with the right kinds of people, because it's so easy to sway and just get lost in the midst of everything and everyone and their own, you know, versions of what's right, what's cool, what's a good thing to do at this age. So the roots, if you keep your roots strong and just your mind focused, I'm not saying have a tunnel vision and just study, I'm not saying that, just your spiritual, you know, mind focus, then no matter what's going on, the chaos, you'll be absolutely tranquil. Like, what is it, the lotus, you know, sits above the water?
The lotus
Why don't you say something about
Yeah.
that?
No, it's like the lotus flower who sits above on the water, is not affected by the elements of water and dirt. It stays nice and clean, even though it's on a bed of muddy water. And so similarly, we can be in amongst the environment of different types of association, but not be affected by such association. One thing comes to my mind is that if we look at the scriptures in the Srimad Bhagavatam, if we look at the great Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad was a little boy, was he five something?
He was 5,
5 years old. And he was going to school in amongst students who were practicing, who were not practicing bhakti in that same tradition.
They were sons of demons.
Yeah. They were very materialistic children. But what Prahlad Maharaj did, or little Prahlad, what he did is he took the opportunity to preach to them, to chant with them, engage in kirtan with them. And that's a great opportunity for someone who is powerful enough and has a good upbringing. And Miraya is self-taught in terms of reading Gita and practicing kirtan, things like that, to emphasize that side of her through the preaching aspect, that the children, the students around her become the kind of association that she requires. So it's a good opportunity to preach as well, and you've been quite successful in that. So yeah, that's a great question. Thank you.
And
Thank you
actually,
very much.
one rule of thumb I like to live by is that, see, this is where social media can be used nicely, because I was looking on Instagram and something powerful popped up, and it was, don't stay up late for something you wouldn't wake up early for. And I find that you shouldn't spend extra time on something that you wouldn't even bother just waking up early for. So
say that again.
Don't go to bed. No, don't stay up late for something you wouldn't wake up early for. Yeah.
No,
you don't agree, do you?
I would say, don't do tomorrow what you could do today.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah. But we could have a quote competition here. But I think this stance is.
No, why delay something that you could do today to tomorrow? I'll tell you what, we'll ask the participants what they think.
Okay.
If they agree with you, they can put a heart.
Is there a heart reaction?
Or they can put something. They can put, and if they agree with me, they can put a wave.
Okay.
So what I'm saying, Uma, what I'm saying is, don't delay something that you could do today.
You're making it sound
tomorrow.
bad.
No?
Don't stay up late for something you wouldn't wake up early for.
So I think from my,
Sorry.
Mariah, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, what you're saying is, for example, if someone's on their phone late at night or something, and they're kind of like wasting time when they should actually be going to sleep, that is something they wouldn't wake up early to do, right? Because that's not important. So, is that what you're saying? So for things, you shouldn't stay up late for things that are not important and are wasting your time. And is that what you're saying?
That's true.
Yeah, like people could be scrolling on their phone, just wasting time. Because people see it as, I can take that sleep away and just do whatever leisure I want to do. But no, you put it exactly right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
Okay,
understood
yeah,
from what
okay.
Mariah
Yeah.
said.
That certainly makes sense. Yeah. I was just adding, don't leave something till tomorrow that could be done today.
Yeah, you could do.
But that's two different things.
You can have both. You can
have both.
Yeah.
Let's agree.
Interactionist. Yeah.
Okay.
We have both.
Um,
I'm just a little conscious of time because we have about like 6-7 minutes. So do we want to quickly go through lesson 3 and then maybe we can leave like a few minutes for questions at the
yes.
end? Let's do that.
Yes, definitely. Sorry, we've been debating online, and this is
Oh,
what happens whenever we're together. This is what happens. So lesson 3, beyond the surface, the infinite essence. So this is, I mean, the Gita teaches us that the person puts on new garments, giving up old ones. The soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. This is a very famous verse. And this verse from the Gita is the first and most fundamental knowledge that is imparted by the spiritual teacher to the student about the eternality of the soul. So I'll speak very quickly, but just like an actor who he plays a villain in the movie, sometimes he plays a hero, sometimes he plays a parent or a friend, no matter what role they play, essentially in the same way we play different roles as a parent, as a student, as a work colleague or a friend. But underneath it all, we're eternal souls. We're not defined by the roles that we're playing. I'm playing a father role, you're playing a daughter role. So what's very important to note here is that it's not that we need to search out spirituality because it's a good thing to do. The thing is that we are infinite spiritual beings, isn't it? We're having a human experience, as I mentioned, instead of an animal experience or something like that. So we need to know our true selves, isn't it?
Yeah.
We should know who we are. We should try to search out who we are from a theoretical point of view, and then behave like who we are from a physical point of view. And as I mentioned earlier, the soul is embodied in layers. You know, you have the gross and the subtle layers of the body, the gross body, the subtle body. Then you have the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and all those kind of things. And our aim is to engage all of the layers for the upliftment, for that true spiritual self. So, I mean, if I look at my skin here and I put moisturizer on it, for bones, I would take calcium or something like that. I don't know. For the blood inside my hand, I I would do exercise to ensure the blood is pumping around the hands and the body. So there's no point just putting moisturizer on the hand and just to keep the skin looking healthy if the rest of you is falling apart. So we take care of all the layers. So I've gone through that very quickly. Do you want to just
Yeah, this
finish?
is where I plan to talk about social media, because this idea of beyond the surface, you can relate it to current culture of social media, because it can easily take the mind off of the important things and make it restless, and it can pull us into comparison, distraction, as Adiva mentioned, peer pressure as well, even online. But the Gita reminds us to really take control of our minds and focus on the things that actually uplift us. And I think it was Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 that says, I wrote it down. Oh yeah, a person must elevate himself by his own mind and should not degrade himself, because the mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So in this way, the Gita teaches us to look beyond these external images, and social media is an example of these external images, and not to be influenced or distracted by them in that sense.
Mm.
So,
I mean, when social media is used correctly, it's a very powerful tool for discovering,
yeah.
for offering easy access to teachings like we're doing today, practices and communities like sanghas, things like that. So it connects spiritual seekers with, supportive, like-minded groups like this one, and it makes wisdom more accessible. But social media has its place, and it should be kept in its place in that respect, shouldn't it? Yeah. And you're right, discovering spirituality means to discover our true self beyond the material labels that we mentioned and others' perception of us. And others' perception of us in social media has kind of taken its own life, which should be kept in check. So that's the third lesson. I was going to conclude on the whole thing, but I'm conscious of time. So we can just go for any discussion or questions if you want. Uma.
Amazing. Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I think these lessons were absolutely inspiring and so beautiful. And yeah, I guess I just want to talk about some key points that kind of stood out for me and what we've learned. And I think, yeah, so again, thank you so much. I think what really stood out for me is actually the importance of kind of building the foundations of our lives, like for example the pyramid. Like if kind of from my understanding, you're totally right that sometimes we actually do forget basic things, like when people are stressed they forget to eat properly, they forget to sleep properly, many things are affected. And actually if we don't really like build on those foundations and keep a solid balance and a solid equilibrium, it will affect the rest of our activities. And I think that was so beautifully said by you guys. And something else that stood out for me that wasn't really mentioned in a lesson is how beautiful your relationship is actually, and how you both nurture each other, and actually you learn from each other as you're speaking, and how important it is to have those relationships with family and friends, and how we can learn from each other and have such amazing positive relationships. And so thank you so much for actually sharing that, even though that wasn't your intention to share that part as such, but it was really beautiful to see that. I think
Yeah,
honestly, um, sorry, I don't know if has someone sent a question actually? No, maybe not.
I was just saying
Um,
we were on our best behavior.
if this is your best behavior, then honestly, like I think we would all love to see more actually. And it was funny. I was thinking while you guys were talking that, okay, for example, you didn't get to finish everything you were saying, right? And I was thinking, what is a lesson from that? And I think the lesson from that is actually that we all had such a great time listening to you guys talking and interacting with you, that actually we would love to hear more. And that's a great reason for you to whatever content you haven't said to actually bring for the next session that we do with you guys, because I think we'd all love to have that, to be honest. It was really nice to see your dynamic, and I really hope um you enjoyed giving this speech. Actually, for some of you might not know, but this is Miraya's first time doing a kind of speech like this, and I think you have done so well. And I think many people don't realize for a 17-year-old, so I'm a little bit older than you. At your age, I was definitely didn't speak the way you do and have the wisdom you do. So I also have a lot to learn from you too. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you to an amazing father as well for teaching her.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions or anything to say, maybe? And if not, yeah, again, I'd just like to also mention about our next wisdom talk that we're doing. And actually, it's a really nice one because it's going to be in person, actually, at Studio 108. And I think there'll be more details. I think it's this speaker. What is the talk called this next week? It's called Authenticity and Spirituality, which is a great topic as well, actually. And we also probably like how we can, express ourselves individually in spirituality. Yeah, so and that is at Studio 108 next week. There'll be more details released about that on the chat, so please do join us. I think people are saying thank you right now, which is great. Yeah, so again, if you just, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to just say a final, like, goodbye to everyone, that would be great.
Yes, goodbye. Thank you so much for having us, Uma. Thank you for everyone for listening. I'd just like to share one realization that Gita is practically a science book for us, isn't it, for our family? It's not a religious book, it's a science of how to live. And that's how we see it, and that's how we read it, and that's how we try to understand it, of who we really are and how we should relate to everything else. So please read the Gita. It's a tricky book to understand sometimes, especially when you're younger, especially when you're older. But please try and relate to it as best as possible. It's been a savior for us, that's for sure. So think Gita.
Yeah, read the Gita and think Gita.
Think Gita.
Yeah, that's good.
Amazing.
Thank
I
you.
like what you said.
Thank
You're
you.
right. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I really hope that you do join us again sometime. And thank you everyone for joining, and hope to see you all soon next week. Hare Krishna. Thank you. But goodbye.
Thank you.
Haribol.
Haribol.